What is going on, Raider Nation, where we talk the Raiders? So I made a promise from last year that I would cover more football, more Raider football, baby. And I think it's time to start with this upcoming game this Sunday with the Raiders versus the Denver Broncos. We already got our first game in the books. KC, thank the Lord, lost against the Detroit Lions. And honestly, if I was being realistic, I think if KC did have Kelsey, I think they probably would have won that game. But I'm glad that Detroit gave them their L. It's going to be, I still don't count. I feel like every year I want Kansas City to absolutely, I think it's going to be a terrible year for them. They're not going to make the playoffs, or they're not going to at least go to the Super Bowl. But I mean, what I have mad respect for is Andy Reid, and I never kind of count that guy out. So KC maybe lost this one time, but we'll see. They're still a tough team to beat. I mean, obviously, with the chances we had to beat them, with the chance we had to beat them last year, and then we screwing that up, and then them being, they always like to clown us. They always like to throw shit at us that because they know we can't stop them because Andy Reid is just that good of a coach, and the offense is, when they're clicking, they're clicking. But that was the defense last year. And I always say with my Raider people that if the defense is terrible, we ain't going to go very far. Now, we did get a couple new pieces to the defense. Now, the biggest thing coming into this Sunday, of course, here are my thoughts on just this madness with Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones has been, he's one of our, he's not a captain. He's not a captain, but he's definitely a key piece to maybe the Raiders doing something this year. And him going berserk and bonkers and crazy, and Josh McDaniels and Ziegler and all this whole situation has been just out of control. I think we could all say that every year seems to be more and more drama. I mean, even with McDaniels not in the helm, it was John Gruden with Antonio Brown and Mike Mayock, and just the whole mess that was. But at least that season, or necessarily it wasn't as well. The Antonio Brown situation was really bad, and this is really screaming Antonio Brown to me with Chandler Jones. I think Chandler Jones is not going to play for the season, rest of the season. I think that the Raiders organization is such a dismay. It's a mess, man. It's a mess, and what you have to look at the head coach, you have to look at the GM, but you have to look at who hired these men. Mark Davis, who has been running this the Raider organization to the ground. It's crazy because I didn't want to think Mark Davis was going to give us a chance, especially with his move to Vegas. I wish we would have stayed in Oakland, but going to Vegas is not that much of a bad thing to me because I'm kind of, I love Vegas. I go Vegas like almost every year of my life, so that's kind of like a second home to me. So them going to Las Vegas, when I thought about it, it was a great move, but I can understand why a lot of people don't like that because of a lot of people, it's not even a home field advantage most of the time. The pricing of this, just tickets alone, going to Vegas, spending all that money. Like when he went to Oakland, at least I was right there and I only spent it for the room, drinks, and all that stuff. But and then you really felt like a family there. You felt like some rowdy ass, motherfuckers who were partying and getting ready for the Raider game. Win, shine, lose, loss, whatever. But the Chandler Jones situation is so unfortunate, and this is not going to help our cause for not just this upcoming game, but for the whole season. I know a lot of people are banking on Wilson. I want to see what this kid could do. He was our top pick. He looked he came back. He came and played for one of the preseason games. I believe it was the last one, and he looked kind of. He's got to get there, man. He's got to get there. That was his kind of first taste of the NFL field and kind of the speed of it. But that's nothing compared to when we start going. I'm sure he's going to get better along the way. I mean, even Maxx Crosby wasn't putting up big pressures and stuff in his first year, but he was a beast, man. That's the heart of the Raiders right now. The heart of the Raiders has to be Maxx Crosby, who I believe is like that old school Raider, man. He is the embodiment of not only Las Vegas Raiders, but he's an embodiment of Raiders of old, Oakland Raiders, even say Los Angeles Raiders. He is the embodiment of the Shield. So I think we have to lean on, the defense has to lean on Maxx Crosby. They have to lean on Maxx Crosby. What I'm excited for is Marcus Peters, see if he has any left in the tank. We are known to pick up a lot of older players after the end, like kind of like the end of their career or almost the end of their career, but they always seem to have something left in the tank when they're playing again, with the Raiders. I mean, we've had success in that with almost a Super Bowl team when we had Gannon, Brown, and Rice, and Romanowski, Rod, and Charles. You know, it was a good balance of vets and then also kind of younger kind of talent. And I think this is a good balance of vets, but younger kind of talent too. You have Epps in on the team as well. I do like this move that we got for our tight end, but I believe he's in second in the roster. So there's a lot of pieces, and the biggest piece, of course, is Josh Jacobs coming back as our workhorse for a 1 year deal, I believe. So that's going to be key to when going against Denver Broncos, who now have Sean Payton. I still don't believe in Wilson. I think Wilson I don't think he's going to be as bad as he was last year, but I think this guy just likes when he tries to make something and cook something up. I think Sean Payton's him and Sean are going to be absolutely butting heads all season. I think the Broncos, they definitely have the talent there to turn it around from last season to be a competitive team, but I just think they have dysfunctions that are not out in the air like we do, and I think the chemistry probably in that locker room is not as good, or not as good as. There's some things I think that you're not seeing it in the limelight with the Denver Broncos. We have their number almost every year. I never really have to worry about the Denver Broncos, but I am worried about the Chandler Jones situation, the drama that continues to be the head point with the Raiders. Before we used it as a motivational kind of just motivation to get to the playoffs where, you know, one drive, one score could have changed the game. But this time around, it seems like a lot of the drama and the negativity is really bringing this team down. And I think it has to do a lot with McDaniels. I can't stand this guy. I hate this guy. This guy should have never been hired as our head coach. But rumors being out there of Davis not being able to fire him because money situation, and it's just a big ass headache. But let's focus on the game coming up on Sunday. I just want to talk about my feelings, what we could do to win, what we could do to what the game plan should be going against Denver. And the number one game plan is run the rock. We have Jimmy Garoppolo now as our quarterback. We want to keep him as healthy as possible all season long. So you got to look at the bigger picture as well. A lot of people are counting us out. Every year they're counting us out. And then when we're actually doing good, they're praising us. But then they talk shit when we're collapsing, which we did a lot last year. So the biggest thing is running Josh Jacobs. You have him. He's there. He showed up. He didn't do any of the practices beforehand, the preseasons, all that stuff. But he's there. He's ready to go. He's ready to work. You do have Zamir White to back him up as well. I think this kid has a lot of speed. Zamir White has potential. I don't think he's going to blow up, but he's a good back to be in there when Josh Jacobs is ready to rest. Is Josh Jacobs going to have the same production as last year? I mean, we damn near have the same O-line, so I think he can. He can either match it or sustain. He's definitely going to sustain it. I think if he stays healthy, the run plays are the O-line's there, the game is there. There's nothing really too new from last year, just requiring, of course, Jacoby Meyers from the earlier this year. So I think running the rock, of course, is going to be the no-brainer. You have to run the ball. You have to establish the ball. This is what this team identity was kind of last year, and it needs to go forward as that identity. I know we have Devante Adams on our team, and I know Jimmy. I believe in Jimmy that he's going to get the ball where it needs to go. He needs to, I think a lot of quick passes are going to be happening throughout this year. I hope Hunter Renfrow gets more of an opportunity, and instead of like these rumors and him being traded or cut, or he is a playmaker. He is another Raider, just like Maxx Crosby. I believe he is a Raider. This dude could do a lot more for our team. He just fumbled a little bit last season with injuries, but this guy has the skill set to get us first downs. This is why we call him third and Renfrow. He can get us first down. He's a quick guy. He makes jukes. I think he does a little bit too much sometimes, and he just needs to kind of stop trying to like juke a lot of people out and just go down and get our yardage, or to maybe make one move and try to burst. But Hunter Renfrow is a key element as well with the run game that needs to be established. I don't know what McDaniels is going to do that though. I think he still sees it as that's not his guy, but obviously you could see the talent that Renfrow could bring if he's given the opportunity, especially when you do have Jacoby Meyers. I think is one of the best moves that the Raiders did. Even though we've been getting a lot of Patriot guys, I think Jacoby Meyers is actually a solid ass move. I liked him last year with a very dysfunctional offense that Jones had and Patriots and stuff. But I saw something in this kid, and I think he could really make a lot of good plays. If Devante Adams is getting double coverage, triple coverage, I think you're going to have to look out for Jacoby Meyers. So I think Jacoby Meyers is going to have a really good, solid year. But I think the main thing about the Raiders and what the problem has been for these past, I would say 8 to almost 10 years is the dropped passes. A lot of people got on Carr because he kept on throwing it, but sometimes it wasn't he threw interceptions, but sometimes it wasn't his fault. Sometimes it was these wide receivers dropping the ball. And this should not be the case for Jimmy Garoppolo going into this season. Drop passes are a killer. Obviously, you saw that with the KC and Detroit Lions game when Tony was dropping passes left and right that could have led to first downs, that could have led the drive to a touchdown. He was just not handling this. He was having a bad day. So same with the Raiders. If the Raiders are able to hold on to the ball, these are yardage that we need. These are opportunities that come or they go. So I think the Raiders wide receivers, the main focus definitely is to keep two hands right there, grab the ball, make sure you secure it. I have no problem with Devante Adams. He's a stud. Raider Nation is very lucky to have him, even though he wanted to play with Carr, and Carr is not here no more and then he didn't want to trade or anything like that. I thought we were going to lose him, but having him is probably why we're going to maybe be successful and maybe make the playoffs, just having Devante Adams. But Jimmy has to stay healthy. But I do like O'Connor. I think he's a young stud. I think, of course, if he ends up starting for some reason this season, I don't think the Raiders have too much of a good chance of making the playoffs with him, but I think they have something to build with him in the future. That's what I hope they develop this kid, because I do see, like everybody else sees, he has the mechanics, he has the arm, he has the poise, and I think that's the one big thing I love is the poise in this kid. So as much as I want to see him start, I want to win now. I want us to be a team that is going to shock the world, and I think you can do that with Jimmy Garoppolo. We brought him here, and maybe he wasn't my first choice, but this guy can deliver the ball where it needs to go, and he needs to let his playmakers make the plays, So I think Devante Adams and Jacoby Meyers are another key factor, of course, for this season and this game. The biggest thing with the Denver Broncos, you establish the run, and then, of course, you can do, I think the play actions can probably be the best bet. Some screen passes, maybe to Hunter Renfrow if he's involved. Not a lot of screen passes, I hope. I hope we kind of pull the trigger. I know Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have too big of a big arm, supposedly. If he doesn't, then I need at least middle to the field kind of completions. He doesn't have to go a full-on 80-yarder, throw down the sideline, but he needs to make things happen, and he needs to throw the ball. So number one, Josh Jacobs needs to at least rush. He needs to carry the ball at least 25 times. I'm hoping he gets, kind of not warmed up. Kind of gets going fast. I hope he just establishes himself and the offensive line establishes themselves of the run game right from the get-go, because that's going to determine everything, of course. So with Denver, the other side is, listen, man, Russell Wilson is still Russell Wilson. He still can make plays on his feet. He could scramble, and he does have sometimes accuracy and arm. I don't know if Jerry Jeudy's playing in this one. You have Sutton. I think Sutton is fine. I think we could cover him. It's going to be very interesting to see Nate Hobbs back out there after breaking his arm last year. He was having a really good year. Then he broke his arm. Then he came back, and he just wasn't really the same. So want to know if he's going to bounce back this year. Nate Hobbs is one of the guys that love him, man. He is a really, really good defender. It's just I want to see how he bounces back from last year. Of course, what we want to see also is the rush. We want to see Maxx Crosby, see if we can get to Russell Wilson. The problem with the Raiders is this is, once again, kind of like going back to last night's game with KC and Detroit. Mahomes is able to slip out a lot. Mahomes was able to slip out. This is kind of what we have to, if we could deal with Russ, we should be able to deal with Mahomes. This is why I'm talking about KC a lot too, is because the Raiders rush, the problem is with these guys who scramble and are able to make a couple moves is that once they do, they allow a big chunk of yards, and they don't get to the quarterback when they either should at that particular moment. They miss tackles. This is the time to show me Raider defense that you're able to pursue and tackle right away. You cannot allow them anytime. You can't allow them to make magic happen. And I think that happens a lot with the Raiders with these past seasons. Even with Mad Max being on our team, there's sometimes where he would miss, or he would take a little bit too big of a kind of like an angle where the quarterback's able to step up and make some moves and make some magic. So these two, we're in a division where we have running back that makes something happen. Running QBs. You have Russell Wilson. You have Patrick Mahomes. Justin Herbert. You just kind of really got to focus on him. On basically, he's more of the dime right there to not really too much of a runner or anything like that. But you have two guys in our division with Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson. So I'm hoping the Raiders' defensive line is even more incredible this year than last year. The biggest thing, of course, is our coverage, our secondary. That's been a problem since the Super Bowl, man. It's been horrendous. This is when I talk about if our defense is going to either make us or break us. We don't have to be a top 10 defense, but we need to be damn near top 15. The biggest thing is the coverage. We are so lousy in the coverage. I mean, it's like 4th and 25. We still allow big-ass plays and first downs like that. We allow way too many first downs, which should have never happened. You could say penalties, this and that, but a lot of our defense is we're not either set right away, we're confused, we miss assignments. So the secondary, the coverage is going to be the biggest thing, not only for the Denver Broncos game, but this season. If this is an issue still this whole season, and Patrick Graham cannot get these guys lined up, have them really, if he's a defensive guru, if they can't really execute his plan, we ain't going anywhere. We're the sports writers and everybody's going to say, we stink. And that's going to be the reason why, because we can't cover nobody. I have no issues with the offense. I think the offense is going to do their job. My issues really rely on the defense. I want that Ravens 2000 defense. I want a defense that's ready to get mean, who's ready to punch somebody in the mouth, not like Richard Seymour. Just a defense that's going to actually cover guys and make sure that they don't get these 20-plus yards, big gains. And I know they tried to do that where they kind of kept everything in front, but Raiders still are the Raiders, and they still collapse, especially with running QBs. So Russell Wilson's going to do his thing. He will hit some of those plays. I just want a bare minimum of it, and nothing relying on, please to God, don't give them all the touchdowns. I'm okay with them hitting field goals. Just no more touchdowns. And please, Raiders, be better at covering tight ends. This is their main weakness. So I know they got a good tight end over there at Broncos, Denver. I think it's Grokich or whatever his name is. He's a pretty good tight end if used right. So the problem with the Raiders too is they don't know how to cover tight ends. So this is another one. Sean Payton versus McDaniels. I mean, out of the two coaches, I think Sean Payton's work speaks for itself, even though the Saints haven't gone to the Super Bowl or won a Super Bowl ever since their Super Bowl win. But Josh McDaniels, I have no confidence in this guy. He's one of the sole reasons why we collapsed a lot last year. He's one of the sole reasons why this team is once again rebuilding, because he wants his own guys. He couldn't work with the guys that he had. I'm not bitter by that. I do agree that some players we should have kind of let's go do our own thing. But my problem is Josh McDaniels doesn't seem to have this locker room on his side. I think a lot, just like when he was at Denver, I think a lot of Raider players hate this guy, don't want to play with him. I think Chandler Jones, as crazy as he sounds, I think he's speaking the truth and he's the one that knows McDaniels the longest out of everybody. He's been with him. He knows him. McDaniels knows him. So seeing this collapse of two people who've known each other for quite a while, and Jones speaking out saying that this guy, I don't want to play with this guy, that's saying something. So with the Raiders, takeaway from just talking a little bit, Raiders versus Broncos, I think the Raiders take the win, because not an easy win by all means. I think it's going to be kind of a back and forth, but I think this Raider is not as dysfunctional as the media like to say, even though I'm talking about a lot of things in-house things that are just been collapsing to Mark Davis. But I think when it comes to this season compared to last, I think they have a really talented team. And I think they'll actually kind of come together, at least for this game, and win it. But I don't know how the rest of the season is going to go, because with the Las Vegas Raiders, it's always madness. You don't know as long as you're winning, it's always good times. But if you're losing, then hard times in the industry or in the organization, it's gonna be toxic basically. And the odds of Josh McDaniels, I mean, they put it out there, he's probably most likely going to be fired this season. The only reason I don't want that to happen is because that means that our season is going to go down the drain, and I don't want that. And I don't think any other Raider fans want, just because we want Josh McDaniels to be fired, we don't want the Raider season to be a waste. I mean, shit, we're getting older. We want that Super Bowl. We're tired of non-winning seasons and not being able to at least make the damn playoffs. So that's the only reason why I would not want Josh McDaniels fired, is because that means he did a horrendous job this season. And just at that point, I think Mark Davis wouldn't fire him until the season was absolutely not salvageable. So it would be like just a wasted year. So hopefully he's able to get this team winning football games. I don't know how many games, but we'll see after the Denver versus Raiders game. And then I will talk more in depth and what I stat wise and all that good stuff, and who played good, who played bad, what we needed to do to win the game, this and that. Like a coach. Nah, just personal feelings here. I'm not a coach. I'm not like a football guru, but I've been a Raider fan since I was a little lad, and I feel like I know a little bit about Raider history and a little bit about how this team's dysfunction, and their prosperous aspects, or just everything that could go into a winning season with the Raiders. But for now, I like what we have on the roster. It's just we have to capitalize and we have to surprise people. Let's go surprise people. Come on, Raiders. Thank you guys for listening. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I'm mcdaniels' son. You can find more videos on here. There'll be more Raider talk. Like I said, I'm not a guru or anything like that, but here's my feelings on the Raiders. I've been a Raider fan for how long, and I just want to win. I just want to win. I'll be at the Raiders versus Chargers game with my dad too. Can we play? I've been to like 5 Raider games, and I've only seen them win once. So I've been there for the bad times, guys. Let us win, please. Thank you guys. I'm Dan, making that son. Until we talk more Raiders. I'll see you guys later.